This is Mike Barbaro, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Permit me to confirm that all members in person anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Rick Ward.
Here.
Audrey Labrie.
Here.
Barbara Anderson. It's not here yet.
She was here a minute ago.
Okay. All right. Amy Salter would not be here this evening. Mr. Hickey. You're muted, sir.
Sorry, present.
I got you. Joanne Gogan.
He's not here, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Linda Daigle.
Here.
Taylor Tower. I see she's on, but she can't respond.
I can understand. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Tom Kane, Chairman of the...
Finance Committee, here.
Thank you. Keith Kent.
Here, sir.
Dave Alexander. Doug DeLay.
Here.
Charles Court.
Here.
Philip Levine. Okay. Department heads may be present this evening for questioning you may have pertaining to the FY21 budget or the town meeting warrant articles. Anticipated speakers in the agenda may announce themselves now or at the time that they will speak. Introduction to remote meeting. Good evening. The joint open meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order, March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of Corona-19 virus. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website along with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded, so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment when appropriate. The meeting is convened by video conference via Zoom meeting as posted on the agenda found on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. This meeting is being recorded and some attendees are participating by video conference accordingly. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured and recorded. Let me get into the ground rules. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of the members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold your name until your name is called. Further, please mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. 6 will mute and unmute your phone. Please speak clearly in any way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait till the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. The chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses. 3 minutes will be afforded to those commentators. Please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If you do not comply, you'll be warned twice before being removed from the meeting for the evening. For those of you participating on the phone, 9 notifies me that you wish to speak by raising your hand, and 9 lowers your hand. Finally, each vote will be taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. So, I call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen at 6:30, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order as well.
I pledge allegiance
to the
flag
Of
of
the
the
United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We'll start off with Selectmen's comments. Mr. Ward.
Mr. Chair, I just want to remind everyone, even though the article, the budget and the warrant articles are being presented to the selectmen and the finance committee tonight, that on September 8th, the finance committee will be holding the public hearing on these article warrants at 7 o'clock, and it'll be on Zoom.
Thank you. Mrs. LeBrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. Just one thing I wanted to clarify. It's been brought up by a citizen a couple of times over the last couple of months where a member of the board has requested input from the town manager, and the citizen has said, well, this is a Board of Selectmen meeting, so I need to speak with the Board of Selectmen. I just like to clarify by quoting the charter how the relationship between the Board of Selectmen and the town manager works. So in the charter, section 3-2, it states that nothing in this section shall be construed to authorize any member of the Board of Selectmen, nor a majority of them, to become involved in the day-to-day administration of any town agency. It is the intention of this provision that the Board of Selectmen shall act only through the adoption of broad policy guidelines, which are to be implemented by officers and employees appointed by or under its authority. So that section expressly prohibits us from the day-to-day. And when we get to a meeting or we're talking about a subject or something going on, we need access to that information, and we get that access through the town manager. Under section 3-2C, appointment powers, the Board of Selectmen are the ones who appoint the town manager. So in the course of these board meetings, you're going to see us refer to the town manager probably quite often, depending on what the topic is. And that's how we have to do it, because we are prohibited from being involved in that day-to-day, and that's how we have to get our information. So I just want to clarify that to anyone who may be watching or interested. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Anderson? You're muted. Barbara, we're not hearing you. Okay. Barbara, we can't hear you. Nothing at this time? Okay, thank you. I'd just like to thank all the workers at the polls yesterday. Due to the COVID, they've done a fantastic job of trying to keep everybody safe going in and out of there. And I anticipate the same come the presidential election coming up. And everything seemed to go well between the early voting and the drop-off mail-in ballots. We seem to be on a good path to get that done. So I anticipate that to continue moving forward for the presidential elections. Right now, I will open the floor up for public comment. Not seeing any. I don't have any announcements tonight. We have an appointment and resignation. Zoning Board of Appeals appointment, Brian Vane. Is Brian here this evening? Not seeing any. Okay, he's not here.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Mrs. LeBrie.
This is Audie LeBrie. Looking over his appointment letter, sounds like he would be a great asset to the board. He's very enthusiastic about joining. Allison's letter, the conservation planning agent, I know that they've had a tough time, getting quorums and such like that. So I'm very pleased to see Mr. Vane come forward, and I thank him for it.
Thank you. Do you want to make a motion?
Yes, definitely.
If I don't hear or see any other comments, yes, Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the appointment of Brian Vane to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
With the term expiring at 6/30/23?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Can I get a second on that?
Mr. Chair, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on it? Not seeing any. Mr. Ward?
Aye.
Ms. LeBrie?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson? We seem to have lost Barbara again. Okay. And the chair will vote aye. Okay, we'll hope for Barbara to come back. Okay, the joint meeting with the Finance Committee, 4.1, final review of the town manager's recommended fiscal year 2021 budget. Included in the Dropbox is a copy of the revised FY21 town manager's recommended budget. Also included is a memo from the town manager outlining the recommended budget modifications made since the August 24th meeting. Mr. Town Manager, would you like to address this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be happy to. So I took some feedback from our meeting. There were a couple of changes that I want to make to the budget, and I've outlined those in a memo to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. There are 4 of them. The first is the YMCA line item in my budget was initially $25,000, and it just needs to be $10,000. Excuse me. So I'm proposing to drop that $15,000 to the $10,000 they requested. Under the town manager budget, there was funding for a fall festival that has now been canceled due to COVID. So I'm looking to reduce the town manager budget by $5,000. We have some of the changes in the election laws and rules and regulations with COVID. There's been an increased cost in holding these elections because of early voting and things of that nature. So I'm seeking to take $12,000 of those initial cuts to increase the voter registration election expense, the line item, to account for the additional expenses that the town will incur holding these special early voting and things of that nature. And lastly, just to balance things out, I've got an additional $8,000 that I would seek to add into the materials account of the highway department. So the overall budget total bottom line has not changed. But there are four changes to the contents of the budget itself.
Thank
I'm
you.
also proposing, I had initially proposed a special reserve that was going to be funded from the deficit appropriation reserve in the Finance Committee under a reserve account, and also proposed to fund the capital purchases of $165,000 out of in the general fund. And what I inadvertently did was include those in the general fund instead of having separate warrant articles for those. So I'm proposing to remove the special reserve from the general fund warrant article request, as well as the capital projects or capital funding request for $165,000. And there will be a separate warrant article that's been added to the town warrant for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions from the Board of Selectmen on this? Mr. Ward?
None.
Ms. LeBrie?
None.
Mrs. Anderson, are you still with us or is she gone? Okay, I don't see Barbara. I'll open that up now to the Finance Committee. Mr. Kane?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Kent? No questions? Mr. Courts?
Sorry, sir, no questions.
No questions. And gotta see who else I got here. Sorry. I can't see everybody on the screen. Mr. DeLay?
Yeah, nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Levine is not here either. And David Alexander?
No questions.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. LeBrie?
Chair, I see Barbara has reappeared on the screen. I'm not sure if she's got connected to audio.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, there's Barbara. Oh. I see her. Barbara. Barbara, do you have any questions for the town manager on the budget? Barbara's microphone is not working. Thank you, Karen. Okay. Do we have any questions from the participants? I see you, sir. Can you identify yourself, please? With the hand raised. I don't remember his name.
David, is it Waters?
Mr. Waters, is that correct?
My name is David Watkins.
Watkins,
Yes.
sorry.
Hi. So I'm just curious how we can proceed with a meeting without Barbara Anderson being able to speak, because she may have a question.
Barbara can phone in if she needs to.
Okay. That's a good answer, Mr. Barbaro. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the budget? Not seeing anyone. I look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ward,
I move to approve the town manager's proposed fiscal year 2021 budget.
can I get a second on that?
Second,
Any more discussion on that? Not seeing any. I'll call roll call vote. Mr. Ward,
Aye.
Mr. LeBrie,
aye.
Barbara, if you can hear me, just raise your hand. If you're a vote, yeah, thank you. I got it. Barbara identified a yay, and the chair votes aye. Thank you. Moving on to the review of the draft of the special town meeting, annual town meeting warrant. A copy of the draft special and annual town meeting warrant has been placed in your Dropbox. The warrants have been reviewed by legal counsel. Any recommended language change has been included. The town manager will review the articles with us this evening. The warrant is scheduled to be voted on and finalized at our next meeting on September 14th, 2020. There is no motion needed for this agenda item. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two articles on the special town meeting warrant and 27 articles on the annual town meeting warrant. I'll try to go through those and provide an update and an explanation as to what they are. Excuse me. Article 1 of the special town meeting is to vote and hear from the Finance Committee on any reports they'd like to make. Article 2 is seeking authority or approval to fund prior year bills in the amount of $6,141.75 from free cash. A list of the 6 bills are below in the warrant article itself. Those bills came to us after we closed fiscal 2020, and I think as the board is aware, we need to bring those to town meeting and request approval from 4/5 of the voters at town meeting. Moving on to the annual town meeting warrant, Article 1 is again an update from the Finance Committee on any reports they'd like to make. Article 2 is to choose any other town officers or committees that may be required or deemed necessary by the town for the upcoming year. Article 3 is to set the annual limits for the maximum spending limits for our revolving funds. And there's a list of those shown in the article, along with the department, board, committee, agency that's responsible for them, as well as what's been proposed for the fiscal 21 spending limit, which is basically consistent with what's been in the past as far as requests go. Article 4 is to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,800 for our senior work-off program. Article 5 is to, excuse me,
Mr. Chair. If we could just back up to Article 4, what was the money for?
it's $8,800 for our senior work-off program.
Okay, thank you. I missed the senior work-off.
That's okay. Article 5 is to raise and appropriate $25,000 as a grant to the Community Action Program, something that's done every year again. Article 6 is the town operating budget, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds the amount of $15,254,266 for the fiscal year starting July 1st, 2020. On the 4 or 5 pages following the text of this article is the breakdown by department that is requesting the total funding of the $15,254,000 on that article. Again, that's been modified a bit from the last time the article was discussed, or the general fund operating budget was discussed, because we removed the request for reserve, and we removed the capital projects fund transfers, and have those as separate articles in the warrant itself, that you'll see in a minute. Article 7 is to raise and appropriate the sum of $905,848 for the direct costs of the water department, and an additional $153,020 indirect costs of the water department for fiscal 2021. Article 8 is to raise $1.283 million for the wastewater department, plus for the operations of the wastewater department for fiscal 21. Article 9 would request $190,482 plus indirect costs of $21,569 to operate the transfer station for fiscal 21. Article 10 is the school budget, seeking to raise $13,787,063 for the school department. As I think I mentioned in a previous presentation, this is the same amount that was funded or would have been funded at our Maytown meeting. There was actually more money available to them because some of the unemployment compensation costs have been absorbed by the town in this case. Article 11 is to raise and appropriate the sum of $837,901 from Monty Tech. Article 12 is to see if the town will accept a portion of the Central Street that was laid out by the Board of Selectmen and shown on a plan dated in 2016. Article 13 is a capital article to see if the board will acquire funding to undertake the reconstruction of Central Street. This funding request is for $150,000 coming from free cash, if needed, to acquire either temporary or permanent easements from the property owners along the Central Street construction zone. Article 14 is to appropriate $3.762 million to make repairs to the Old Murdoch Senior Center. Article 15 would be to take money from free cash in the amount of $86,165 to make permanent road improvements to the unaccepted portion of Mellon Road. Article 16, if Article 15 were to fail, Article 16 would be to see if the town would allow the amount of $4,200 to be spent from free cash to make temporary road repairs on the unaccepted portion of Mellon Road. Article 17 is to request a transfer from free cash of $40,046 from free cash to fund the operating deficit in the wastewater department from fiscal 20. Article 18 is the capital article, seeing if the town will allow the expenditure of free cash in the amount of $165,032 to purchase a cruiser, to purchase security cameras for the school, to purchase a Toy Town hot water heater, a hot box for the Public Works Department, and replace or actually install a septic system that has never been in place at the Public Works Department. Article 19 would be to see if the voters would allow the transfer from the deficit legislation special account in the sum of $323,706.09 into the Finance Committee Special Reserve Account. That funding would be transferred as a contingency, so to speak, to allow the Finance Committee to address unanticipated, unexpected expenses during fiscal 21, whether it be for COVID or something else. Article 20 would be to see if the town will transfer the following prior year capital balances into the general fund. This has to be this offsets the general fund long-term debt lines. We have a remaining balance of the purchase of boiler for Toytown Elementary of $521.02, and the acquisition of a fire truck from past appropriation of $161. Article 21 would be to see if the town would transfer the sum of $14,000 from a revolving account again, which was the sale of prior town property, in the amount of, $14,000 to offset existing long-term debt in the general fund. Those are really, those last two articles are really articles to clean up some of our reserves that are unnecessary and no longer needed, and we'll close those out into the general fund and ultimately the lapse of free cash. Article 22 is to request the town accept the roadways known as Bayberry Circle and Pinewood Drive on a plan that's been laid out for Mr. Robert Van Dyke in 2004. These roads have been brought forward, are supported by the planning board for acceptance as well as town staff. Article 23 is to see if the Board of Selectmen and the voters would allow the acceptance of a piece of property from the Winston Redevelopment Authority. That property is known as Grout Park at the intersection of Glen Allen and Spring Streets. That park has been renovated during fiscal 2020. The Redevelopment Authority would like to gift that back to the town, to have the town own and manage that particular piece of property. Article 24, excuse me, and Article 25 are to request the authorization of the public to sell two pieces of property that were acquired by tax deed on Summer Street. One is a vacant building, dilapidated building on 4 Summer Drive, excuse me. The other is just a piece of vacant property on Summer Drive. What this will allow, this request or warrant article is seeking is authority to allow the Board of Selectmen to sell these two pieces of property and put whatever stipulations on the property themselves they feel is appropriate. The property was acquired by tax title. Tax title does not allow for any contingencies to be placed or terms to be placed on the sale of those properties. Those two properties on Summer Drive are commercial properties that we've had discussions about in the past, where I think we'd like to see the property sold to an individual or business that has the ability to redevelop that property, create property value on the property as well as jobs within the community themselves. So these two articles are two separate articles seeking the exact same authority for two separate properties that abut each other. Right behind the bowling alley, basically, on Summer Drive. The next article is, excuse me, is to see if the voters will approve the allowing for anybody qualified for a Gold Star parent full tax exemption to be able to be provided that Gold Star exemption. The Gold Star exemption was adopted by the state in 2018. We have one parent right now of of a soldier who was either killed on active duty or is missing in action from active duty. So that request was brought forward. I know it's been discussed at a previous board meeting. We've placed that on, at the board's request, placed this article on the warrant for voters' consideration. And the last article is a citizen petition that we received last week, I think, seeking the board officially recognize a section of Mellon Road by prescription beginning at number 404, the home of Chris and Donna Nolet, and extending northerly to number 215, the home of John and Celeste Waymeyer, for the purpose of repair and maintenance. Those are the 27 articles that are being proposed to the Board of Selectmen tonight, and the Finance Committee will have their public hearing a week from this coming Tuesday, 6 days from now. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions the board or members of the Finance Committee have.
Thank you. I will start with the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Ward, do you have any questions about the warrant articles being presented this evening?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of questions. Let me just get back to them. Okay. So, the Article 15, which is 86,165 to bring Mellon Road to a dirt road, you said if that one passes, the following one's not necessary. When will the work be done if this passes at town meeting? Will it be done this year?
We believe that it will, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that, because otherwise, I think you probably want to repair the holes before winter.
Yeah, the Public Works Director and I had a conversation about that earlier today to make sure we're on the same page. We obviously can't contract with a company to make the repairs now because we don't have the funding available to us.
And my other questions, on Article 22, which is accepting Bayberry Circle and Pinewood Drive. So my question is that road fully acceptable to the town at this point? Meets all the specifications?
It does. It's been built to town standards. It's been reviewed by the planning board. It's been reviewed by our Public Works Department as well as our planning department. The road was built to town standards and is ready to be accepted.
Okay, and I drove through that the other day, and going to Bayberry Circle, when you enter in off Brown Street, yeah, it's all perfect, but when you exit Bayberry Circle, there's a dirt section that's sort of muddy and holes that hasn't been finished. That's town property. What's the story on that little piece? It's like 100 to 200 feet.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask either Al Gallant or Tracy Murphy to
Sure. Mr. Gallant?
relation to that.
Mr. Gallant? Okay. So yes, that is town property and we will have to grade it. It's basically, we allowed it to happen because they pretty much ran out of money. So it's just an emergency exit. So we're gonna allow that to happen.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mrs. LeBrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ward answered my question on Article 22. And I have no other questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Anderson? Do you have any questions you want to call in?
No, I got it.
Okay.
You
You're
can hear
back
me?
on speaker. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Okay.
On Article 5, the appropriations for CAC, I just want to clarify, is that an increase in spending from prior years?
$25,000? Is that what you're asking? The $25,000 in Article 5 is not an increase from fiscal 20. There was an increase, I believe, from $18,000 to $25,000. I believe it was in fiscal it may have been in fiscal 20, it may have been in fiscal 19, I apologize, but that $25,000 increase is the same request as what was funded in fiscal 2020.
Thank you. And then moving along, I want to go to Article 15. I think what bothers me about this article, because I have reached out to a couple of the residents on Mellon Road, and it seems to me that nobody is particularly interested in Article 15 at all. That they find that unsatisfactory to them, and they have no interest in a dirt road. So I'm wondering why we're even presenting that.
Because, if I might speak.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because we had discussed this in terms of what to do, and this is our solution to this problem. And that's how we decided to go about this at a couple of meetings ago.
Well, I think what I'm trying to clarify is, I get that it's one of our solutions. We had a few of them. But has anybody reached out to see if it's acceptable to the Mellon Road residents? Because that's a big deal for them.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Town Manager.
Well, this article and the $4,200 article was discussed at the one of the most recent Board of Selectmen meetings, and the Board of Selectmen voted to place these articles on the warrant. There were, if my recollection serves me correctly, a number of people from Mellon Road at that meeting, just as they are tonight, and I don't recall anybody stating they didn't support either of the two articles. So the board, I believe, proposed these two articles to Mr. Barbaro's point, to try to address the current condition of Mellon Road.
Mr. Barbaro, could I speak?
Mr. Watkins.
Yes. So just following up on that last meeting about discussion of Mellon Road, we weren't given the chance. The vote was made. We were not given the chance to chime in on a dirt road. We were given a brief chance on chiming in on trying to get the road repaired before winter. That's what we're on board about, is to get it repaired before winter. As far as a dirt road, that's an impossible thing out here. That's never going to happen. It can't happen, Mr. Barbaro. The road would be completely rutted out in no time. The town, you'd be here every week grading it. We have hills. It's impossible to return to dirt. The road used to be dirt. There's residents that have been here since 91 that are refusing to return it to dirt. We've come this far. We had a beautifully paved road. We had it done with municipal equipment involved. The town has, at that point in time, had approved the road in minutes. I have all those documentations. We have everything that proves that the road was built to town standards at the time that it was built. To revert this back to dirt, it cannot happen.
Dominique, Mold?
Yes, I live on Mellon Road as well, 446. I don't know if it was proposed to turn both portions, the public and the so-called unaccepted part, which I don't believe is legal, but that's beside the point. I don't know if you're talking about doing the whole thing as a dirt road, but I agree with what Dave Watkins said. I'd also like to bring up the fact that we have in the past had loggers come into the state forest up there with heavy equipment. There's the state forest runs up that portion up by all the way to the Watkins house. And I feel that, it's not possible to put that as a dirt road and expect it to be maintained. It would be very costly. It would not work well. We've already had problems with school buses getting stuck. And we have several people who, right now, my husband's in a wheelchair. We have a medical van taking us back and forth to appointments. If we cannot get out of our house to go to the, medical appointments, and there's several others on our road that are in the same situation. We're talking about a life or death kind of a situation. If we have a dirt road with ruts and mud and, really damaged from a lot of equipment, we have a couple of different rubbish companies that come up through our road. I see a lot of heavy equipment. We've got a lot of power lines as well. So, we're dealing with trucks from National Grid and et cetera, et cetera. I feel that this is really going backwards, and I also feel it's really putting mine and my family's safety at a big risk. Totally against it, with all due respect. We are asking to have the former agreement with the town, which ever since I've lived here, 2004 until a couple of years ago, the town did apply patch to those areas, the potholes. It's not in the greatest of shape, but the town did a job so that we could at least have vehicles pass through. People were not rolling their trucks over. We were able to get medical equipment. And we were able to, get through on the road. We were able to get a snowplow through. So I'm hoping you guys, on the board are listening and hearing how unsafe it would be to make that into a dirt road. It would be expensive too. We're not asking you to, rip up the road and put a brand new road up in there. We're asking for a little patch, which was done for many, many, many years. Before I came there was patch being applied to those potholes. And it just suddenly stopped, and we got the letters saying that, we weren't going to do it anymore. But, in the long run, I think that the residents, all of us would be a lot happier. We wouldn't feel that we're being, disenfranchised by the town. We don't want to feel that way. We want our voices heard. The other thing, we're in a pandemic here. I'm getting medical supplies through UPS, and I hope everybody, in the town board and in the official capacity, I hope you guys have a little compassion. My husband was hit by a impaired driver on Route 2, and it was no fault of our own, but we're in this situation now, and the thought, it really does scare me, the thought of you coming and ripping up our road. And how am I going to get the care? It's going to be a good long year before he can't walk. He's already had 5 surgeries. He's got probably 2 or 3 more to go. I'm really imploring that you look at your heart and even at your pocketbook. I think in the long run that this really would be better financially for the town, and it would make people happy and not want to be causing all kinds of legal issues and stuff. And I'm not saying it like in a combative or any kind of fighting kind of way. I'm really imploring and asking you to really consider it, and and I was at the last meeting. I really didn't understand that I was supposed to speak up. It was kind of I didn't know that that's what I was supposed to do, or I would have. But, please consider that, and that I'm not the only one who's in this situation.
Right. I thank you. Mr. DeWart, I see your hand raised.
I wasn't, but I would like to speak, actually. Thank you. We've had a really hard time getting through to you and Mr. Hickey, not to be rude, but we've spent a lot of money researching this and paying attorneys to research this and getting to the actual nitty-gritty law of it. And I've sent out a letter to the town manager asking him to look at stuff. He hasn't responded. Numerous people have tried to make this happen. We've given the town every chance. We've politely given an out. We've spent a lot of money to give an out, and the out is this. The road is a road by prescription. It's a hard thing to get, and in fact, the attorneys, Mr. Hickey's attorneys, have told him that in letters that he gave me on a request. It's hard to get, but it's not hard. It's hard to get because it's a rare circumstance, not because it's hard to get. We fit that circumstance to a T. We check all the boxes on that. It is a town road by prescription. And Mr. Hickey's written statement is that it's unaccepted and it's private, and you yourself decided it's private. It is not. Under Massachusetts law, it was approved when it was rebuilt by the town using municipal equipment. We have the agreements to back that up. That you gave them to me when I requested them. You gave me a ton of information that proved that it is an accepted road, and you guys are refusing to read the information that you gave me. And it was impossible for us to own it, and all the deeds going back as far as registered deeds go, the land that Mellon Road sits on, and I'm quoting, was exempted from every one of those sales. It is not possible that we own it. We spoke again with our attorneys today, and they clarified all this, and it's fantasy that it's an unaccepted private way. It's just not true. And the entire portion abuts the state forest that is owned by the state, not the town, as Mr. Hickey has said in the past. It's owned by the state, and the state invites traffic there. This is part of why it's a road by prescription. And it's just absurd that a private road would be the only legal vehicular access to the road. Anyway, we put an article, Article 6, the last article, Article 27, we did a petition for it to be recognized as a road by prescription. And under Massachusetts law, all that has to happen is that the select board say, we recognize that it's a road by prescription, and there's a reason that that's in the law, is because it does happen, and we are that circumstance where this does happen. All you guys have to do to solve all this problem and not spend the taxpayers' money and not keep consulting with lawyers and wasting money like you guys have been doing on a daily basis, all you have to do is recognize here and now, or any time at a BOS meeting, that it is a road by prescription. Look up the laws, read the attorney emails that have been sent to you. Please.
Thank you. Anybody else on this? Mr. Shea. Mr. Shea?
Yes. Hello, my name is Bill Shea. I'm at 275 Mellon Road. I have to say that I was at the last town meeting, the last Board of Selectmen's meeting, when this was discussed, when the part of the theory of turning into a dirt road was proposed. And quite frankly, I don't know that we had, and it was just my impression, okay, that we had the impression to say, hey, no, this isn't the right way to go. I think everybody has really raised basically why this is just not good for anybody on the road. I mean, we've all been here a long time. I'm close to 20 years here on this road, and it's just never been an issue. And now over the past couple of years, it has been, and the road is getting worse, okay? And this winter, it's gonna get even worse. If you rip up the existing tar, it costs the town more money in the long run. And the road will not sustain as well as the tar that is presently here. We're really looking for, and I think my neighbors before me basically stressed it, we don't want a separation from the town. We don't want a battle with the town. You know, we've gotten very heated on these meetings because I believe that we're not being heard. We're not being listened to, okay? We've brought very good points. We've invested a lot of time. We've invested money. We've done everything we can to do it the right way, okay? And even though we've done that, the town, it appears, refuses to acknowledge what we're saying, okay? We're all taxpayers here, All of our taxes are up to date. You know, we're imploring. We don't want a beef with the town. We want to, you know, we want to be residents of the town. That's why we've all been here a long time. I implore the board to reconsider this warrant, okay? And I implore the board to take care of our road, all right? We have people here, obviously, people talking about needing medical care. We've already had buses get stranded here. We already had a resident have an accident because of the potholes. These are all facts. It's not conjecture. It's not, you know, we're not making it up. I'm trying to do this as calm as possible, okay? We don't want a beef with the town. We just want our town to take responsibility for what they should have responsibility for. And that is taking care of our road. We pay a lot of total taxes. This road pays a lot of money in taxes, okay? So I would please implore the board to remove this article, okay, this warrant, the article to make our road a dirt road. This is a step backwards, okay? It's not a step forward for the town, okay? And it's certainly not a step forward for any of our residents. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before I move on?
I'd like to speak, please.
Who's this, please?
Jason Tavares, 255 Mellon Road.
Okay, please speak.
As stated before, we pay a lot of taxes. I would estimate our taxes on that stretch of road to be $1,800,000 over the last 20 years. I also think that the town could, the board of selectmen could end this tonight with a vote to accept this road by prescription right here, right now. And all they'd have to do is come out and maintain the potholes as they were for the last 20 years. Nobody here is looking for a new road. Nobody has ever asked for that. This is forced upon us. All this cost of town was forced upon us. $80,000, and you're talking only $4,000 to repair the road. You could have repaired the road 20 times now with $4,000. With $80,000, excuse me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
What?
This is Linda Daigle.
Hi.
This is Linda Daigle. Hi. There is a resident, Frances Kuski, who's called in trying to have a moment to speak. She has her hand raised.
Okay, I can't see her on the screen, but okay, she can speak, if you can get her through.
Yep.
Hello?
Frances?
Frances? Hello? Linda, I'm not getting her.
Yep, I'm not sure. She is unmuted, so not sure if she's not listening at the moment or if something's wrong.
Okay, well.
Thank you.
So, is she there? No, okay. Mr. DeWart, one more time, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch base on what John or Tavares was just saying. Jason, sorry. The town I know has spent more than the cost of repairing the road on legal fees answering questions. And how long is this going to go on? We're just asking you to go by the law, and the law is that it's a road by prescription and that it is a town way. It was never owned by us. It's a unique road, I'll give you that, but it is a road by prescription. And the town council, I believe, from what Mr. Hickey has released to me, has ill-advised him much of the time. And in one letter that they sent to him, they straight up told him he had a big fight ahead of him if he was going to call it a private road, because they gave him all the evidence of what makes a road by prescription. I think he's not reading correctly what he's been given, and I don't think he's giving correctly what the lawyers are telling. I don't think he's telling the BOS what the lawyers are saying accurately, or the lawyers need to rethink what they're saying. This just needs to end now. Like, it's a road by prescription under the law. All you have to do is vote right now and say it's a road by prescription, or come back at the next meeting. Look it up. Read the laws. Thank you.
Thank you. So, if I'm hearing correctly from the residents of Mellon Road, and trust me, I know it's hard to understand that the Board of Selectmen is not trying to leave you out in the cold. We've been trying to work through these issues just like you have. But if it is the feeling that, I'm just paraphrasing, please just bear with me, that you would not want this turned into a dirt road, that you would settle for the road to be patched for the $4,900 at this time.
No, if anybody can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh,
Good,
Thank you.
good, absolutely. It needs to be turned into a dirt road. It's not a dirt road. People are misunderstanding. It's what's happened is they groove the pavement. When they groove the pavement, it becomes even. There's no more potholes.
Excuse me, who is this?
If all we can get is a grooved road, then take it. Don't take potholes that are going to blow up in 1 week.
Who is this speaking?
It's Francis Kusky.
20 years on this road.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Barbaro, I would
Mr.
like
Watkins,
to
please.
speak briefly. So, once again, Article 27, that was the citizens' petition, that would solve all of these problems. The road would be repaired as it has been for the last 29 years. This all started in 1991. We have all the documentation. So what I would like to do is just, once again, state that the dirt road for $85,000, it's going to always remain in dirt. It'll never be paved. When I purchased land out here in 1998, I had a beautiful, brand new paved road. That's what I saw, and that's when I bought the lots. Once that pavement was done, I bought the lots, and I was assured that it was a town-maintained road. Once again, I'll say that. I was assured it was a town-maintained road. My attorney, my closing attorney, looked up everything he could possibly look up. I talked to the town. I talked to the building inspector. I was told it was a town-maintained road. Now, what we need is we need our road to be maintained.
Thank you. Okay. So, just to come back to where I was going, it appears, if I'm listening to everybody, that the Mellon Road residents wish not to have this article, or basically what's called passed over, and that they would be satisfied with the temporary repairs of patching to get them through at this time.
No, I wouldn't.
I have one more thing to say,
Wait,
Mr.
please,
Barber.
can I just
I'm
finish,
sorry.
sir? Can I just finish?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that seems to, the way that we would remove this article would be to pass it over at town meeting. So let me just address a couple of things, because Mrs. Mold asked us if we were digging up all of, if it was to go through, would we be digging up all of Mellon Road? No, it would be what is considered the unaccepted portion of it, and the DPW would go down and grade it so many times a year to make sure it stayed at a level position. If I'm correct in assuming that. Mr. Gallant, is that what the town would do with that road?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, a good portion of that money would be used to do a layout, do the meets and bounds so the town could accept it. That's just the way it was approached to me, how we could get it, meets and bounds done, lawyer work done, and reclaimed.
It's not unaccepted. It doesn't need acceptance.
Mr. Duarte, please. I've heard your argument. Everyone's heard your argument.
But you're not hearing it. You aren't hearing it.
I've heard your argument multiple times. I'm just
Al Gallant isn't hearing it.
If you don't stop interrupting me, I'm going to have you removed from the meeting. Do you understand, sir?
I do, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I was trying to get to the unaccepted, what we consider the unaccepted portion at this point.
Allegedly.
Alleged, whatever. That Mr. Gallant, the DPW would go down and grade the road, and it would be maintained that way, and then we could accept it as a dirt road where we would be able to maintain it using Chapter 90 funds. Am I correct in assuming that, sir? Mr. Gallant?
Yes, you're correct in assuming that.
Okay, so that's how that would go.
Mr. Chair, can I just add a little piece of that?
Sure, you may.
If they don't want it dirt, we could always maybe make a motion at town meeting to use the remainder of the money to patch it while we're doing the layout and the taking of it. So
No
maybe
more patching.
It doesn't need layout. It's already accepted. Why can't you guys get that through your head?
I'm not gonna argue.
It doesn't need accepting. It's already accepted by law. We spent a lot of money
Mark,
to show this
Mark,
to you.
can I speak?
We're arguing over a point. I'm just trying to explain.
It's a very important point, and you refuse to recognize it.
Mark, if they make it a dirt road, that's the beginning of
I'm
getting it
talking about
paved.
the law.
Excuse me, sir.
That's the beginning.
I'm talking about
This
the
is the
law.
beginning of
Francis,
making it
please,
paved.
excuse
Mr. Chair,
Excuse me, please. Please, excuse me.
Mr. Chair,
I
Mr.
have
Bree.
something to say.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Bree.
this is our first look at the warrant articles. Yes, this topic has been discussed quite a bit over the past couple of years. My suggestion would be, we're going to be coming back in a couple of weeks, reviewing these articles and actually accepting the warrant at that time. I appreciate all these conversations, but I think we need to move forward. Perhaps let Mr. Watkins have his last say,
Yes,
because he did have his hand up. And then in 2 weeks, we can come back, and that's when we're going to actually, this is not, none of these articles are set in stone at this point. This is
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. LaBrie. I just have a quick question, Mr. Barbaro. I'll be brief. The idea of the layout for a dirt road. I understand that from what I've discovered, the layout has already been done. We have meets and bounds. We have all kinds of surveying that has been done on this property. Some of it, most of it was done by the developer, and that's how he was able to achieve building lots, proper frontage. We all have pins. We all know where they start and stop. It's my understanding, Mr. Barbaro, that this layout for a dirt road is to bring this road back to dirt road standards, which is what it started as, dirt road. So we're going to be bringing it back to dirt road standards. Now, I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, dirt road standards are not the same as paved road standards. They're different. Am
It's
I
in
right
between.
about that? It's in between. So okay, I can go with that. But
It's grooved pavement.
Excuse me.
Right.
Francis,
But what I
please do not
understand
speak.
is it will never become a paved road again because we're not accepting it as a paved road. And furthermore, we're not accepting it when the road is going to be ripped up. This is going to be in the future. So
They said before the
what is
winter.
going to happen in the future?
Please.
I don't know. In other words, is this ever going to be accepted? This is, I know getting roads accepted are very difficult. Look at we're trying to accept a road off of Brown Street that was built in 2004, or it came up for its first acceptance. And by the way, there is a dirt portion of that road that is heavily trafficked because I've been over to Brown Street quite a bit. I have friends there. The traffic is heavy on that dirt road spot. So that's not a quick way out. It's not an emergency exit. It's a well-traveled part of the road. But okay, so I got a little sidetracked. I don't believe that this is going to be properly accepted, and I don't believe that a dirt road in any way will ever become a paved road again, which is what I purchased land on, was a perfect, brand new paved road. Once again, perfect, brand new paved road. It did not need acceptance because that acceptance took place when the A&Rs went in and when the building permits arrived and the driveway cutting permits, all required to exit onto a town-maintained way. The town owns the road. We have a slew of evidence. We have deeds that state that very same thing. Thank you very
So
much.
a dirt road the town would not own?
Not yet.
No.
That's something in the future they're saying.
Well, that's the question then. I guess
The
town owns the road.
Because in 20 years of living here, I've never driven down this road.
Please, I've asked
sorry,
you, a couple of times, excuse me, may I finish? Mr. Kluski, you're interrupting. If you interrupt one more time, we'll have you removed from the meeting, okay? Please. I think we've had enough on the subject. We're gonna bring it back up in 2 weeks. Give us some time to look at it and all the warrant articles, okay?
Fair enough, Mr. Barbaro.
Thank you very much. Okay. There's no motion needed at this time. We have some minutes to release. If the Finance Committee would like to at this time adjourn. Mr. Kane?
Mr. Barbaro,
Mrs. Anderson?
I'm sorry, I still had another question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please go right ahead.
Thank you. Over on to Article 22, I think I'm looking for some clarification. I did go down there. I did see that the end of the road is not finished at this time. And so, obviously, in lieu of all the difficulties we have, I think I need to ask if there's a bond on that road.
One more time, I didn't catch the last part of your question.
Has a bond been placed on that road by the developer?
Mr. Gallant, is he still there? Oh, Mr. Town Manager, can you answer that?
I'd ask if you allow Tracy Murphy to respond.
Mrs. Murphy, please.
Hi. Yes, there is a bond still currently out on that project. And I'd like to clarify that the dirt portion at the end, the developer came into the planning board to get an amendment to the subdivision approval because there was a National Grid pole that was within the right-of-way area and they couldn't get National Grid in to move it to get the road paved by last fall. So the planning board weighed the options and allowed the amendment to the subdivision approval for that portion to be dirt.
Can I ask a question?
Mr. DeWatt, go right ahead.
I'm just curious because there's a lot of history about this. Is this the same developer that dropped the ball on Converse?
This developer did not do Converse Drive.
Van Dyke had nothing to do with Converse Drive?
No.
His parents, her husband or his dad did not have anything to do with Converse Drive?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
I have a question, Mr. Barbaro, for Tracy Murphy.
Yes, sure.
Go
right ahead.
Tracy, my name is David Watkins, and I'm familiar with that pole incident off of Brown Street. The folks that live right there are actually good friends of mine. And that pole incident put them, I'm going to just say it lightly, through hell.
Yes.
Dealing with Van Dyke, I know that the folks dealt directly with you. This was not an easy thing that was done to them. They were not getting any help from the town. They certainly weren't getting any help from Van Dyke. And National Grid, everybody had a problem. But the ones that got treated the worst were the homeowners. I know that for a fact. I was present during part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, do you have anything else?
I just had a follow-up. As far as the bond, how long do we hold that bond for?
We hold the bond until the road is accepted.
And then there won't be a bond and no assurities after that?
Correct.
Okay.
Part of the approval is the road had to go through a full 24-month cycle, a winter cycle, and it has done that. And it's been inspected multiple times by the DPW director. So we still hold a bond until the road is accepted.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Barbara, before we move on?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Kane?
Yes, I would entertain a motion from the Finance Committee for a motion to adjourn. There is a second, or a motion and a second?
Mr. Kane, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee.
All right. Motion and...
I would second that, Mr. Kane.
Second that. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Take a roll call vote. Mr. Quartz?
Aye.
And Mr. DeLay?
Aye.
Mr. Alexander?
Aye.
Mr. Kent?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you very much. I'd like to remind everybody that we will be hosting a public hearing on the town warrants next Tuesday. beginning at 7 o'clock. And certainly, it's an opportunity for all people in the town to ask questions and clarify the thoughts about the town warrant. So I hope that people will take advantage of that and weigh in.
Can I ask the finance committee something real quick?
They've adjourned, sir. They've adjourned.
I just wanted to know if they received the packet that I tried to email to them through you, if they were given that information.
Yes, I have that information.
Okay, great.
Hard copies are in the packets for each of the finance committee members, so they have an opportunity to read that before next Tuesday's meeting.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so we're moving on to our minutes. We have the amended minutes from July 13th, 2020, with the clarification in it.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Labrie,
I move to approve the amendment of the meeting minutes of Monday, July 13th, 2020, as before us this evening.
I look for a second on that, please.
Mr. Chair, second.
Okay, this will be, any other further discussion on this? Not seeing any, it'll be a roll call vote. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Labrie?
Aye.
Mr. Ward?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, we have some executive session minutes to be released from Monday, January 9, 2017. Executive session minutes that have been redacted.
Mr. Chair? Did we have one more regular session?
Oh, August 17th. Yeah, I'm sorry. I moved too fast. I have sorry. Monday, August 17th, our regular meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Ward.
I'd just like to make one correction on that. On page 4 of the minutes, about halfway down after the history of the Mellon Road, Mr. Dorwart spoke, but it just said Dorwart, and there was no reference to his name earlier, so nobody would know who he is. So please change that to Mr. Mark Dorwart of Mellon Road, so there's some reference to who he is at that point.
Okay. Mrs. Daigle, can we include in that, the minutes, the actual address of Mr. DeWart, on Mellon Road, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, Mr. Ward, is that your amendment to the minutes presented? Can I get a second, please?
A second.
Thank you. A roll call vote. Mrs. Labrie?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Ward?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Now I'll come back to, we have some executive session minutes. Monday, January 9, 2017. Their executive session minutes have been redacted. We have Monday, May 22nd, 2017, executive session. Monday, June 12th, 2017, executive session unredacted. Monday, January 8th, 2018, executive session redacted. Monday, February 12th, February 26th, 2018, executive session redacted. Monday, July 2nd, 2018, executive session. Monday, February 11th, 2019, executive session. Monday, February 25th, 2019, executive session. And Monday, March 11th, 2019, executive session. Would you like to do these individually, or would you like to do them as a whole?
Mr. Chair?
Mrs. Labrie?
I think individually would be better. Well, that way we can vote accordingly.
Sure. 2017, the redacted numbers.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Labrie.
I move to release the executive session redacted minutes of Monday, January 9th, 2017.
May I get a second on that?
Mr. Chair, second.
Mr. Ward, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Mr. Ward, this was prior to you being on the
Right, but I
board.
believe that if you're not a member at the time, you can't approve minutes for approve minutes, but you can approve. Otherwise, there are several of these meetings where you can't even approve them because you don't have enough members left.
To release.
Right.
To release. Thank you. I did see that. Thank you.
Can I vote aye, but just, I would like an explanation as to why these are all being released now?
Sure. Let me get Mr. Town Manager.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The minutes are being released now. We received an email from Audrey asking when we can, or bring it to the board for release over the last 2 or 3 meetings. We'll continue to do that until there's no further executive session minutes that need to be released.
Thank you.
Can I ask that from here on out, or maybe the Board of Selectmen can just review the AG rules on minutes release in the future, because they're not supposed to take years. They're supposed to be released, executive sessions are supposed to be released immediately within 3 meetings or 30 days approximately after the reason is gone for them having been executive. And I think 4 years is long enough for these negotiations to have gone on. And I can't imagine why something needs to be secret for so long. I just would like to ask that maybe as a Board of Selectmen group, you guys could review those together at once, maybe in public, so just to in a sign of good faith for us. 3 or 4 years is a long time. You know, just review the AG rules on this, please.
Thank you. On this motion, I'm taking a roll call vote. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBrie?
Aye.
Mr. Ward?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have executive session minutes from Monday, May 22nd, 2017. Can I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move to release the executive session minutes of Monday, May 22nd, 2017.
Can I get a second?
I will second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Not seeing any. I'll call roll call vote. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBrie?
Aye.
Mr. Ward?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. We have Monday, June 12th, 2017, executive session unredacted minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. LeBrie?
I move that the board release the executive session unredacted minutes of Monday, June 12th, 2017.
Can I get a second, please?
I will second that.
Okay. Any further discussion on it? Not seeing any. I'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBrie?
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Ward?
Aye.
And the chair will vote aye. We have Monday, February 12th, 2018, executive session. Can I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board release the executive session minutes of February 12th, 2018.
Can I get a second on that, please?
I will second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on it? Not seeing any. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBrie?
Aye.
Mr. Ward?
Aye.
And the chair will vote aye also. We have Monday, February 26th, 2018, redacted minutes.
Mr. Chair,
LeBrie?
I move that the board release the executive session redacted minutes of Monday, February 26th of 2018.
Can I get a second, please?
Mr. Chair, second.
Mr. Ward, thank you. Any further discussion on this? Not seeing any. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBrie?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Ward? And the chair will vote aye also. We have Monday, July 2nd, 2018, executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. LeBrie?
I move that the board release the executive session minutes from Monday, July 2nd, 2018.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Any more discussion on this? Not seeing any, I'll call a roll call vote. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. LeBrie?
Aye.
Mr. Ward,
Aye.
and the chair will vote aye also. We have Monday, February 11th, 2019, executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Chair,
Mr. Ward,
go ahead.
I move that the executive session minutes of Monday, February 11th, 2019 be released.
can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Not seeing any. Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Labrie,
Aye.
Mr. Ward,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. We have Monday, February 25th, 2019, executive session.
Mr. Chair.
Again, Mr. Ward,
Mr. Chair, I move that the executive session minutes from Monday, February 25th, 2019 be released.
can I get a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Ms. Labrie. Seeing no further discussion on this, Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Labrie,
Aye.
Mr. Ward,
Aye.
and the chair will vote aye also. The last set of minutes we have on Monday, March 11th, 2019, executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Labrie,
I move to release the executive session minutes of Monday, March 11th, 2019.
can I get a second?
Mr. Chair, second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Not seeing or hearing any amendments to that. Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Labrie?
Aye.
Mr. Ward?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye also. Thank you. Okay, we have no further communications. Our next regular meeting will be September 14th. The evening, the town meeting warrant will be finalized and your vote recommended taken. The constables will be on standby to post the town meeting warrant to meet the required timelines. There is no executive session this evening.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Anderson.
I'm sorry. And I wish I had been able to bring this up earlier, except I had technical difficulties. But I think it's important that the board recognize the Winchendon Fire Department for receiving the EMS Service Organization Award. It's very prestigious and it's an honor, and I'm very proud of them. And I think with that, we should honor them at our next meeting.
I would agree with you, Mrs. Anderson. We shall do that. Push that forward to me in an email so I can put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Hello, Taylor.
Hi. So I was looking for a little bit of board direction on the minutes. There's been a lot of back and forth, and not all of it is conducive to the intent of the minutes. I wanted to make sure that the board is okay with the length of the recent minutes. If there's anything that I shouldn't be including, anything that's a little bit too much.
I would probably try to get to the main point of the minutes of the discussions, because some of the back and forth all pertains to the same thing. I think as long as we get the crux of the conversation, I think that would be okay. I will ask the rest of the board if that's okay with them, because some of the discussions get lengthy about other items.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Ward?
Yeah, if you go to the open meeting law guide, it specifically stresses that you include a summary of discussions, a summary, and it does point out minutes must include a summary of the discussion to each subject. A transcript is not required, and what we got for this 11-page thing was a transcript, a word-by-word transcript. I think we can save a lot of time and cut that back and just get a summary of the decisions made, who said what, and let's get to the point.
Say word by word would be better for record.
Excuse me, sir. You need to be recognized by the chair. And it's a discussion. Ms. Labrie?
Nothing.
Are you good with the summary?
It's a fine line. I think that they can be trimmed a bit, but obviously you want to make sure that all of the pertinent information is in there. I know that probably doesn't help you at all, Taylor.
Thank you. Mrs. Anderson?
Quite frankly, I think she does a fabulous job. And especially, I guess it would depend on the topic. When you have, would kind of get notated because they refer back to it. And we also have to refer back to it.
Okay.
That make
yeah,
sense?
I think in a summary, she can get the main points out of who said it, and some of the main topics that are there. Does that help you, Tyler?
Mr. Barbara,
Oh, Karen.
just as somebody who used to have to take minutes for a living, may I make the suggestion that she just bullet point any relevant legal references and then within speeches and then leave it at that?
Thank you for the input. Okay, with nothing else on the agenda, I look for a motion to adjourn, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
There's a motion to adjourn at my phone. My handy dandy phone. At 7:55. Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. Ward. And the chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 7:55. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone. Mark, I love your cat.
14. What's that?
I just said, Mark, I love his cat.